Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Ups and Downs for Trek Culture. You will notice if you watched last week that there's a little change. We are in a different space and we also have a different face. Thank you very much. No, I am not the latest regeneration of Trek Culture's Adam Cleary. I am in fact the still very much under probation Seán Ferrick from Trek Culture. So I am hoping this goes very, very well and that you're all going to give me lovely, lovely feedback. Together, we're going to go through this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, Envoys, Episode 2, for Ups and Downs. This week's episode kicks off straight away with the introduction of an alien ball of light. It's a very familiar one because it is strongly evocative of that TNG episode, The Child, one that was recycled from the Star Trek Phase 2 aborted TV show. The Child's not a good episode. It's just not. It's not one of Deanna Troy's better episodes. It introduces Pulaski, so, you know. Now, the reason I'm ragging on that episode so much is that it's a very odd one to call back to. So, this episode opens with this trans-dimensional being of light. It goes right up into the Cerritos and appears in front of Mariner and Tendi. It threatens to, destroy them, hurt them, they need to subjugate themselves, and you would think that this would warrant a great intruder alert. Instead, Mariner tackles it and forces it to make a tricorder, cool as that is, then fails to report it entirely. So Mariner's this silly character, and she's cool, and she's over the top and everything, but she is still an officer in a starship. I feel that's something that probably should have been flagged. So for me, that scene, and I'm sorry to say that this whole list is opening with a down on that one. However, just at the end of that scene, there's a cool little funny moment, which also is definitely going to come back to us, which is Captain Freeman walking around the corner. The little ball of light goes straight into her, but what I'm paying attention to is the fact that she's double checking what's the best way to go to warp. It's warp time. Why has no one said that before? Brilliant. Brilliant. The opening credits then come along, and a lot has been said about the opening credits over the last, obviously the week since it's been out. Now, Adam said last week, the typeface, the design is so evocative of bringing us back to the next generation era of Star Trek. So that's already been covered. But one thing that I really love in this is just those opening few notes of that theme tune. It's note for note the same as the 1970s animated series. It just locks these two shows together straight away. They're the two animated series that we have so far. And it just is it's a real nice nod to the fans, but also it's a nice kind of lock into continuity. So that gets an up from me. Getting into the episode proper, you've got your standard A plot and your standard B plot. So your A plot is following, you've got Boimler and Mariner are escorting General Quarren down to Telgara 4. Now there's jokes aplenty about why do all Klingon names sound the same, and you know what? Well, I was going to say fair, but Quarren, Martok, their plot is, the main driving force, the action of the episode, but actually the B plot is the emotional heart of this story. We get to find out a lot more about Rutherford this week. So, what do we know about Rutherford already? He loves his job, so we got that last week. We got a crisis, we got zombies, we've got a date going on, but that door closed when it shouldn't have, and that's a problem. So this week we're introduced to him as he's crawling out of a Jeffries tube, and he's been in there for 7 days. You would normally say, oh god, this person needs help. He's having the time of his life. But he's confronted straight away with a request from Tendi. Let's go see a pulsar together. He said he would do that, and we get a throwback to just one of the most infamous lines by one of the most infamous characters of all of Star Trek The Next Generation. And I am, of course, talking about Wesley Crusher's I'm with Starfleet. We don't lie. Rutherford says, we're Starfleet, we don't go back on our word. And I don't know, it just somehow seems more sincere coming from him. Rutherford, for this whole episode for me, gets a big, massive up. Not only for the fact that we get to find out more about him, but just watching his journey, watching him try out all the different sections. We see him go through command, we see him go through medical, we see him go through security. You know, all of these things that take their own skills and take their own drive, and he's just knocking them out like that, all because he wants to spend time with Tendi. And the only way to do that is to get on a different rotation. We're in the shuttle with Mariner and Boimler, and Mariner, as characters go, there's a lot to like, and there's a lot to not like. So there's a lot to like in that she is, she's energetic, she brings a bit of fun, she brings a bit of life to the episode. But as I stated in the beginning of this, she's a terrible officer. One wonders how she's still got a job. Now, we know there's a familiar relationship on board the ship, but we certainly know that the captain doesn't always have her back. So, arguably, this one is both an up and a down. The up is that the attention to detail and the care that this show so far has put into tying everything into the franchise as a whole is beautiful. We see a couple of Evora, the aliens that were introduced in the beginning of Star Trek Insurrection, walking past the shuttle. Just one quick nod, that's all. Just in this scene, this is a silly one for people who say, look, I want to tie this into the franchise. So Boimler is having a panic attack. Quarren has flown off, he's drunk, he's got the shuttle, Mariner's trying to calm him down, and so he starts to power walk, just like Section 31. The existence of Section 31 is a bit of a question mark in Star Trek. They were obviously introduced in Star Trek Deep Space Nine through William Sadler's Sloan. They were the Secret Service, they were the Obsidian Order, they were the Tal Shiar. They are not mentioned in Voyager. They get alluded to again in Enterprise, or they feature somewhat in Enterprise. They have their own space station in Discovery. They're getting a spin-off show. I'm still not entirely sold on that one myself. For a secret organization, they're pretty well known. So that, for me, is a down. I think it's just a little bit too much. It's a little bit too on the nose. It's a little bit trying to cram too many things into too short a time. This is where I'm conflicted on it. I do feel that it's too much too soon. Hey, we're Star Trek. I get it, man. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. The artwork is stunning. The continuity is fantastic, which I'm going to come back to now in a second with more ups. But take a breath. Take a second. Relax. We're here. We're going to enjoy this together. After that slightly the whole kitchen sink thrown into everything, Boimler and Mariner, they enter Little Qo'noS, which I just love as an idea. They go to a Gach salesman who is able to tell them that General Quarren was there but minutes ago. But just, again, attention to detail. You've got blue Gach, you've got red Gach, and all of that. The sign overhead. Yes, I went and translated this from Klingon. I'm really trying for this job here. It spells Gach. Beautiful, just beautiful attention to detail there. They go a little bit further on, they bump into another alien, a fight erupts, it's just in front of a stand selling Klingon weapons. Yes, the sign is also translated, it says Arsenal. This is unreal detail. While they're doing that, back up on the ship, you've got Rutherford has worked through his command scenario, which is just horrific, calling back to the command scenario that Deanna Troi went through in the season 7 episode of TNG Thine Own Self when she was taking her bridge commander's exam. Now this is just Rutherford obviously trying to get into the command program, but he is able to walk into any one of these sections with, it seems to be, a few minutes of notice. Ensign Tilly went through several episodes of training just to get into the command program in Discovery, so obviously things have changed in those 150 years or so. One thing that is a really nice, and again, this is an up from me, this is the most supportive crew in the world. So you've got Commander Ransom, who couldn't be more of a high-fiving, let's get this done first officer, when, God love him, poor Rutherford keeps blowing the ship up in the holiday. There's one horrible point where he just kills all the children. Then he goes and works in the medical team, and now you have Dr. Tiana, who is able to say, you've got no bed manner. Get out of here. And it's a wonderful, funny scene, and it got a proper laugh from me. That is one thing that arguably I haven't done a lot of laughing out loud with this show, but it definitely leaves you with a kind of a kind of a warm feeling inside. Program Smorgasbord. That got a laugh out of me. I will definitely say that right now. That is such a wonderful title. Then you have all these holographic Borg appear, and then you have a scene which seems to be definitely an homage, if not lifted from, Lee Whannell's Upgrade, where Rutherford just tears these Borg apart. I want this man as my bodyguard. Of course they say, welcome to the security team, welcome to the Bears. Back down on the planet, you have Boimler and you've got Mariner. They are now entering what seems to be the Rysian section of the planet. There's like so many different worlds in one go. Massive Horgon sitting there as a fountain, just beautiful. Captain's Holiday. You've got Jean-Luc with the Horgons sitting in front. You've got Letty is without sin. You've got Quark with 2 Horgons running around. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful continuity there. Poor Boimler is once again shown to be naive, young, needs help. Mariner is shown to have just an ever-expanding backstory with what else has she done. But again, another beautiful bit of continuity is they burst into the Andorian bar. You've just got straight away, it's another callback, it's another just, hey, the animated series existed, remember? There's a Vendorian posing as an Andorian, all the Orions. Vendorians were in the animated series episode The Survivor. They duplicate, they are changelings, not in the same way that the Founders are, but very much in, they're big octopi, aren't they? And they can turn into whatever is kind of roughly the same size as them. Think of them as the T-1000. The Vendorian gets away, all the Andorians turn on them, you've got those beautiful blades that we saw in Enterprise, there is a Lurian, so, you know, it could be Morn, it could be... it's probably Morn. The bar fight is broken up once poor Boimler is wailed on, but Mariner takes control of the situation again. And this is a bit of her character that I actually like. It's not too much. It is in keeping with what we've seen of her so far. It's not just about being in control of the situation. It's also the fact that, yeah, I can totally imagine her of being in some bar fights before. I can imagine her taking out a phaser and then she offers to buy everybody a drink. She handles the situation what is probably the best way possible, whereas Boimler is... you know, he's too stiff collar, he's too green behind the gills. There is a joke which is brought in a little bit earlier where Mariner says, myself and Quarren, we used to do some grey ops stuff back in the back in the old days. To which Boimler says, well, hang on, we're the same age. What old days? Now, I don't know if that's a throwaway, we'll get back to it gag that, you know, maybe Mariner's older than she looks, because of course we know Freeman is her mother, so it sort of dates it a little bit. I do think there's a backstory there, because one of the other laugh out loud moments, which is also getting a massive up from me, is she's having a sleep dream of being Khan. She talks about being buried alive, marooned for all time, moons of Nibia. Stunning. She's dreaming the monologue from Wrath of Khan. Again, I don't know if this is just a beautiful little nod to the franchise as a whole, probably is, or if there's potentially some sort of tie-in character thing here. Handle it well, I'll be on board. Handle it badly, it's Star Trek Into Darkness. Who knows? Then you get through the Andorian bar. Boimler's had enough. He is just about to chuck it all in. He takes off his comm badge and he throws it that way. Mariner knows he needs a boost. One of the worst scenes of the episode, unfortunately, kicks off. So you have a Ferengi pops out. I love an elf Ferengi. But Boimler doesn't love an elf Ferengi. Boimler is pretty horribly racist towards this elf Ferengi. So the gag, obviously, is that Mariner has got her friend to come out and threaten so that Boimler can, you know, be the hero. But Boimler's not a hero. Boimler's kind of a dick here. He pulls a phaser on this Ferengi. He immediately judges him. I suppose correctly? But yeah, it's kind of a weird scene because this Ferengi is very much a Ferengi of the Next Generation. It's nothing like the Ferengi of DS9. This is not Quark, this is not Rom, this is most certainly not Nog. It's just, questionable. Down. They find Quarren. They have, again, lovely gag, covered in parking tickets. Their shuttle, she just brushes them off, dump his body there. A Tasha Yar double walks out, picks up this Klingon. They fly back. Mariner has tried to convince Boimler that he was totally in charge of the situation with the, as she called him, the Bolian. And then she obviously goes off, and the Ferengi was her friend, and she was doing a nice thing for Boimler. And you know what? It works. It's a nice scene. We saw it coming a mile off, but it was just nice. So for this one, I'm leaving Mariner with an up for this one. The last part of the episode, you have Rutherford and Tendi, who are quite clearly growing closer and closer. They're sitting in a Jeffries tube together, and you have Rutherford looking at this, this massive machinery, and he says it's beautiful. And it's a lovely scene, and I feel there's something wrong. Something that has obviously happened to Rutherford that has turned him into a cyborg, that he now has this affinity for these small spaces. He wants to get back in the Jeffries tubes, and he gets on very, very well with machinery. I think when we find out what happened to Rutherford, I think we're in for a potentially sad story. And there it is, ups and downs for episode 2 of Star Trek Lower Decks, Envoys. Yeah, thoroughly good show. Enjoying it so far. If it continues to go this way, I think we've got a solid entry into the franchise. And after all, isn't that what we want as fans? We want more fun. We want more content. Gimme. We'll be back next week. One of us will be back next week. I might regenerate again. Who knows? In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to get in touch, I am at Seán Ferrick on Twitter. And don't forget to follow at Trek Culture on Twitter as well. Guys, you've been awesome. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good one.